Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Denissa Palmer on behalf of One People Toronto, and today I'm here with our wonderful founder and CEO, Sheena Dennise. Today we are talking about the inevitable. I know for myself, I'm super tired of hearing about it or talking about it, but it has become our new reality. So here we are. COVID-19, that's what we're talking about today. Today we'll really be talking about the vaccination and how it really divided the country into two sides. Really, either you're for the vaccination or you're super against COVID and you think it's a hoax. So we'll be talking about that today with our wonderful Sheena Dennise. How are you today, Sheena?
I am doing well, all things considered. What's nice about meeting, we've rescheduled, right? Is that today is a new moon, so maybe it was supposed to happen today.
Definitely. I was like, that makes sense for all the emotions, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say I also facilitated a virtual Reiki session for some folks at Ryerson, some employees. So that also had some technical difficulties. So I think maybe it's just a matter of the day, but it's been a good day for the most part, if not a little bit busy.
That's good. Glad to hear that. All right. So if you're ready, we'll just get started.
Absolutely.
All right. So I guess the first biggest question is, do you think you'll be getting the vaccination soon?
So it's a complicated answer. I think initially I will say that I was very reserved. I'm still reserved, maybe a little bit less reserved. And maybe it's not even that I'm less reserved. It's more that there's definitely a pressure that's present.
Definitely.
From different, people. Some folks you may be surprised by, other folks, maybe not so much.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's division everywhere, so even knowing a few people in healthcare, some folks obviously are very for it, and then there's the few that are not, and obviously feel displaced,
Definitely.
But personally, I am going to get it. I haven't yet. I will say I know some folks my age, so I'm just under 40. Most of the folks that I know have gotten it, most of my friends.
Okay.
I'd probably say 80%.
80%? That's a pretty high number, though.
It's a pretty high number, honestly.
Considering it just kind of came out technically.
Right. And my age group isn't the priority age group, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, now it's open, but it's still not necessarily priority. I will say time frame, I was aiming or thinking that it would be closer to the fall or in the fall or maybe closer to the end of the year.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been pushed up. So I wouldn't be surprised if by I'm thinking August, September, but even that's it's pushing it a little bit. So maybe even as soon as July.
Oh, that's.
And and I know this is going to come out before then, so people will be like, why not June? It should be today. So. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. That's actually leading to our next question. Do you have people around you that are super responsive to you getting the vaccine, or just I can't see you until you get it, or they're when you get it, let me know, kind of thing, or they're more laid back about it?
So definitely, I have some folks that are more laid back. And this is I keep thinking it could be, folks could say it's a certain demographic or a certain background, but it's not.
It's not. That's true.
There are some parents that have already gotten their vaccinations and friends that are parents, and others who are determined not to get it. So yeah, sorry, what was the question?
Do you have people around you that are super extremists when it comes to getting the vaccination?
Yeah, I'm definitely a part of family groups where there are the few that are sending, their daily dose of the conspiracy and how the updates are happening.
Definitely,
and on one hand, I take it with a grain of salt, but on the other hand, I don't think it's coming from nowhere. So personally, I am very cautious, and I do want to know and want to be informed as much as I can, you know.
Definitely.
And just, you know, kind of like an anecdote. There's someone that I, connect with on Instagram, and they're in healthcare, and, you know,
Mhm.
Toronto-based healthcare, as a nurse, and they had shared just this past week that they lost 2 people to the we can't really say the vaccine, and I'm not trying to say
Yeah.
that in case there's any government officials that are out there. But they had said, you know, they were otherwise healthy, and then they got the vaccine, and they're no longer Earthside.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
this person seemed pretty not good about it. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Was
and to
was
see
that
something like
recently?
that in healthcare definitely gives you pause. Yeah, just this past week, like last week, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
Yeah, and they had
That's
said and that last week that they had lost 2 people who had just gotten their
wow.
vaccine. Yeah.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah.
But as you said, we don't want to make it seem like it's because of that. But later
Right.
on, I'll bring us some facts for everybody to let you guys know. But yes, anyways, next question. So as of like today, I realized there's almost been 6 million vaccinations that have been administered.
In
Yeah,
Canada or
in
worldwide?
Canada.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, well, that's a lot. And even just in Ontario itself, there's not Ontario. So daily there's almost like 400,000 like
Okay.
administered daily.
Wow.
For you, like, do these numbers surprise you?
I think in a yes and no, you know.
Okay.
I feel like there are a lot of people, a lot more than I guess I expected, that
Hmm.
are for the vaccine. And
Yeah,
not,
definitely.
you know, not even just frontline workers, but people that maybe even like myself that were very
Hmm.
not even anti-vax, but you know,
Just very hesitant.
skeptical, right? Or
Yeah,
cautious,
of course.
that people have completely transitioned over to getting their vaccine and, you know,
Definitely.
and again, it's across cultures, but
Hmm.
I will say as a Black person, I personally have this like reticence to do anything that the government is enforcing before I've personally vetted it within myself. You know,
Definitely.
no matter who's telling me what to do. I don't care if it's my parents or my
Yeah.
doctor or my
Yeah.
therapist, you know? So,
It's true. Because I mean, like, historically speaking, the government hasn't always had our interest in their best hand. So it's like, how on earth are we going to be so trusting with something like this? And I mean, even considering the lockdown. So I think so many people need to understand like that too. But I don't know. I think it's just for everybody. I think now, like, it's a time, like today, especially, like, now is a time for people to just venture into, I guess, looking into things a lot more, like doing your own research, especially because it's really easy for you to become a sheep. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just when you watch the news, it's just so easy to believe everything you see on TV.
yeah,
And a lot of times, because I've worked behind the scenes of the TV, a lot of times I know how easy it is to like control what you want your viewers to think and how you want them to feel, especially after like reading or coming into contact with that information. So
yeah,
just an FYI, guys, you got to do
exactly.
your research.
Right. And think
Definitely.
critically. That's really what's essential, you know,
Yeah,
thinking critically
definitely.
and being discerning with any information that's out there.
Yeah, just think outside the box. Like question everything you hear. And I mean, my dad always told me that growing up. And at first I would be like, why? And people, even growing up, people will kind of make you feel like you're annoying or like you're the bad egg because you ask so many questions. But that's also a sign that something's being hidden that they don't really want you to know. So you should just
Exactly.
push a little more. But yeah, sorry guys, we'll get back on topic. So depending on the age group, because I know that you are kind of around different age groups, do you find like a difference in mentalities when it comes to like the vaccine or just COVID in general?
That's a good question. Um, I would be interested. I guess the only demographic that I don't really have a connection to is
Mhm.
like kind of between like 12 and 16, you know, that high school
like preteen, high school,
even teen-ish, you know.
Definitely.
But like young adults, because I work in, you know, the post-secondary, and then you know, because I have so many friends that have their own kids, so you know, under 12 or so, and of course, you know, my own age and up and whatever. There, I would say it's among the populations that I connect with. I would say it's varied, you know. I think for the most part, like, you know, the age group that's like 50 plus, there is this. I feel like there's this acceptance of getting the vaccine because it is a conversation around their mortality. And so people that maybe would not have been so interested are maybe, you know, now kind of, you know, being willing to do that. Even people my age and, you know, in their late 40s or whatever. More than you would expect, you know. I think it's more of the younger generation that's a little bit more, like you're saying, questioning things, thinking critically, kind of saying like, you know, I've seen what the government has done to like you folks. And, you know, so let me reflect on, you know, how this is really sitting with me.
Exactly. That's true too. And it's funny you say that. I came into contact with somebody that was kind of older, and I'm not related to them at all. I think I was just passing in my building or something, and they didn't have a mask, and she wanted to come in the elevator, and she was like, is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, like, I don't discriminate. Everybody, like, I don't know your story, nor am I going to like pry and ask. Like, I have a mask, I'm fine. I use my sanitizer, I'm okay. Like, your life, your problem, kind of thing. But she was like, I think she kind of took that opportunity to kind of talk to me openly because I allowed her to come in without a mask. And she was like, you know, it's just like so weird. Like, I've seen so many different things throughout my lifetime. And she was a very older lady. And she's like, I've seen so many things throughout my lifetime. And she's like, you know, I've managed to survive through so much things. And she's like, I don't need a stupid vaccine to like make me better. She's like, I'm going to die anyways. And I'm like, you know what? I admired her, like, just her attitude, you know, because she was really so positive, and she could really hardly walk. But I was like, you know what, this lady kind of like, I really like her attitude. I like that she was just like, you know what, I'm not going to confide into what everyone else is doing. I'm just going to do what I want to do. And realistically, that's kind of true, because there have been so many plagues and diseases that like everyone has gone through and survived, and here we are. So
100%.
I don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say too, you know, on the same topic, just this past weekend, you know, it was Mother's Day, so I was with my parents, and I ended up talking to my uncle on my dad's side who lives in Florida, and he was like, I guess, you know, kind of said to my dad, like, you know, let me talk to Sheena or whatever, because I think they were talking about, I think maybe he was talking to my mom who's pro-vaccine. My dad's not on the fence, but just kind of doing what my mom says. Anyway. And so I ended up talking to my uncle, and he was like, so where are you at with this whole vaccine thing? And he is also on the same page as the woman in your elevator.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not doing that. Like, and also kind of conversation before. He's like, you know, he's like, I'm just on top of my immune system. I eat really healthy. I do all the things to keep my body active. And, you know, if something happens, then maybe, you know, I've lived a life, and maybe it's my time to.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah, it's interesting to hear everyone's perspectives, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting. So I'm like, I don't know if a lot of people like even know the facts about a lot of this stuff. So it's like, here's a time for you guys to learn now. So that leads kind of to my next question. How do you feel about the FDA not approving vaccination?
Yeah, I will say this is one of the very reasons that I'm reticent to go ahead and take the vaccine as now, you know.
Definitely.
If I'm not mistaken, you know, with vaccines or any type of like medicine, There are trials that happen. There's a time, like a period of time, longitudinal studies that, over like a year, 2-year, 5-year period, where you can see, folks, side effects and, whatever the exposure are and whatever,
just at least more time.
Right. And we have like 3 months of that information.
Exactly.
So that's really why, I have my own reservations. Even still, the FDA, knowing that the FDA is a United States-based entity, there are still some reservations on top of that because they approve things that Europe, for example, does not approve.
Exactly.
But yes, there's definitely reservations around the FDA not approving. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this week, actually, I was watching something on the news, and the NACI, so the National Advisory Council of Immunization, they were actually saying that there's 4 vaccines that have been made. The 2 vaccines that are like more, I guess, welcomed, considering to them, is mRNA vaccines. So those are the Pfizer one and the Moderna one.
Right.
And then the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson, those ones are kind of like ones that are, they don't really advise you to get, but they're just like, if it's there, then, get it kind of thing. But it's funny because I realized that a lot of like doctors, like local doctors and stuff, are getting really upset about them even like saying this to people, because they're like, you guys are making it seem like these are like all vaccines are not the same. And technically, from what it sounds like, they're not really the same. Like the mRNA ones are more like the top tier ones, and the Johnson & Johnson are like secondary ones. Right. How do you feel about that? Like personally for me, I know Johnson & Johnson because like history I love. I know they've been in a lot of like backlash because just a lot of like different things that they've done. So when I heard that they were creating their own vaccine, I was like, I think that's when I was really like, okay, absolutely not. How do you feel about that?
So I know Johnson & Johnson has acquired a pharmaceutical end, but it always gives me pause to hear about, just before I answer your question, it always gives me pause to hear about companies that have a certain background that want to foray into a new industry. So, Johnson & Johnson is like a cleaning company, and you do chemicals, and you want to transition into healthcare. For what reason other than money,
Yeah.
And I get it, it's business, but yeah. I will say it just doesn't surprise me at all. There's already tiered healthcare, whether it's here, in Canada, because public healthcare is like level 1 healthcare. And if you have private healthcare, you can go when people last year, for example, couldn't go. Like I knew, when they had canceled all like, elective surgeries, or people that had cancer and were waiting for surgeries, and, ridiculous. I know of someone that has a private healthcare, and had to get a surgery, and they got surgery like the next week, whether they paid for it or whatever, or they had the connections. And so tiered healthcare in that sense, I think, is present, whether it's here in the United States or wherever. But I guess the privilege, in a sense, is that, at least being here, is that we still have some kind of option in being able to choose. I mean,
that's true.
Some people are going to certain clinics because they offer the Moderna or they offer the Pfizer. I know what I will be doing, because I am not going to do the AstraZeneca because I am prone to blood clots, and anemia. So, even the Johnson & Johnson, I'm like, this doesn't look good over here. I heard about the Moderna arm, and like your arm swells off. So I'm like, Pfizer, I think, is the way. Personally, I'm going to go, but everybody's body chemistry is different, and the availability is different. I think
true.
it really comes down to the availability.
I think that's why like a lot of the local doctors were more upset about it, because they're just like, we don't want people to know the difference of like if it's top tier or like secondary. And I mean, obviously when it comes to this vaccine, everybody is going to want the primary one. So I think doctors, and I didn't even realize this, but doctors are actually getting bonuses for how many vaccines they administer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think, it kind of goes without saying kind of thing. So they're just like, okay, we need to administer as many as we can get, like get out, doesn't matter what it is kind of thing. So that's where they're just like, you know what, we don't like these people because they're taking money out of our pocket. So yeah, but it's really scary.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's so crazy because it kind of leads into my next question. I did a lot of research just to see how many deaths are from the vaccine. And it's funny that you said that one of your friends had 2 people that passed away, because I was researching for a long time and I couldn't find any. I found one in Alberta, and they said this was this week, actually. They said this was the first case in Canada that anybody had died from the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Yeah.
And I was like, so they could be hiding the death toll from the vaccine. And that's a given, because can't really trust the government, guys. But
I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but this particular person that works in healthcare, they were saying like, that's like exactly to your point, that like, and maybe a little bit in like feeling emotionally distressed, like nobody's talking about this, nobody about it. You don't see this on the news, but I know because
exactly.
So I think, and I mean, even to the point that it's interesting how there was a lot of talk at the beginning of this whole thing, like last year around this time, that people were contracting COVID, and whether they were able to like recover or what have you. There was like this sense that I don't know, just that the government will have your back when traditionally that really hasn't been the case, and
exactly.
And to advocate for yourself, for your own body and how it works, no matter who you are,
Exactly. Even considering, I think like little things, like even considering like the fact that Ford just actually voted against giving paid sick days. I think just little stuff like that, it really shows how much.
At all.
Yeah. And I'm just like, guys, like
it's only 7 days. Like I saw it's only 7 days. Like if
it is.
And if you have to quarantine for 10 or 14 days, then how does that even work?
It doesn't make sense. And like, I'll share this experience. Like my partner, like he contracted COVID, and till I think he was supposed to get paid through WSIB, and it has literally been like a month later and nothing.
Yeah.
So it's just the process of like how things work out. And he's full-time, like he's a manager at Costco, like he's full-time. Like, so it's really weird and frustrating as to how they want people to follow the rules and regulations. And I understand that entirely, because people's safety is at like risk, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to support and follow through with what you say that you're going to do for people. So I don't know. It's frustrating, but it is life. Yes. Anyways, on to our next question. So seeing all the different strains that came from the original COVID that we had started, do you really think the vaccination will ultimately erase the whole disease, or do you think it's like just a Band-Aid for what is happening right now?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard not to say that it's not a Band-Aid, because seeing as how there are mutations and my personal hope is that the vaccine eradicates the majority of, and then it ends up like dying out. But like similar to SARS, I don't think SARS really ever went away, I think it's still present, but maybe our immunity to, to that virus in particular has like been built up. So maybe it's more about, there's kind of like this, I don't know if it's like a theory or whatever. I don't know if it's a conspiracy, or science or a blend. But this belief that like, if you've had COVID, then your immunity is better towards COVID. But then I've also heard that if you get COVID like a second time, then it's even worse. There's just so much information there.
And the thing is, like, but I didn't even know that you can get it a second time, because I thought once you get it once, you're immune to it for like 3 months, they say.
It's not so much, apparently it's not so much that you're immune to it for 3 months, but that it will show up in your system for 3 months.
Oh, so you can still test positive.
You can still test positive. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's very weird. Yeah. Honestly, to me, it's really weird because like as I said, my partner got it, like we lived together and I tested negative. Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm healthy. I'd like to think I take my vitamins daily. That's one thing I do. So I don't know. I don't know, maybe if it's the vitamins, but it's weird. And yeah, it's weird. I didn't know that. I feel like the time frame just changes every time I hear something new about like COVID. It's like, oh, these facts are not too solid. I don't like them. So I don't know if you have any family or friends like in the States. Yeah. Okay. So how do you feel seeing how just free they're living compared to like how we're living? Like, does that bother you?
It doesn't bother me, per se. I think it's a little bit confusing,
Yeah.
To see that's happening there. I mean, apparently their numbers are coming down, so that's good. I could only assume that it's related to the vaccinations. But yeah, it is disconcerting and it's a little bit confusing, from this point. But I will personally say, I think that there is value in the city, municipal, provincial, federal governments figuring out a way to reopen businesses in a way that's safe, like
definitely.
If restaurants are already open because they're open for takeout and you can safely divide, obviously substantially reduced, but if you can safely, serve 4 tables, then why wouldn't you allow that experience for the restaurant as well as the patrons,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, doing things like that, yeah, I think is going to be important, particularly as time goes on.
Definitely.
And the weather warms up.
Yeah. So I was told that they might be thinking about actually extending our lockdown.
Yeah, until July, I heard.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So I will share. My mom got she's a Good Life member. And so they oftentimes will send out, it's like they will inform their membership like a month or maybe even a week like before a provincial announcement comes out.
Okay.
Last weekend I went for a walk with my mom and she said that she received an email from Good Life saying that they wouldn't be opening until, I forget the date in July, but July something. And so she was like, well, that tells me that they're going to be extending this, maybe not until July, maybe until June, but I don't think I don't think that I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I don't think that they're going to be reopening on May 20th.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I hope that they can at least open some of the aisles. I think that it's not even really everywhere being open. I don't think that's what people want. I think people really just want to be able to get little crafts and stuff that we can take home and do that we're staying home to do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's really exhausting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really sad to say because I've even had a lot of people come to me and talk about, they just I have actually one friend, and he moved here from Florida about a year and a half ago. And he actually moved here literally right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
And it's just been like super discouraging for him. And he came to me last week and he was like, you know what, Den, like, I kind of want to go back home. And because like I played soccer in the States, like, and I explained to him the regret that you feel when you don't really finish something that you really kind of set out to do. It really follows you for the rest of your life. But it's just like, it's really hard to hear even people like that talk about how they tried to like leave where they were living to come here to, you know, find something better. And he found he got a car, luckily he got a good job. So luckily he's found those things, but he's just like, I'm so depressed, I'm discouraged. Like, you know, it's just sad. Like he's never really seen anything from Toronto.
Right.
He's like, I've seen just snow. He's like, I don't know what else to do. So, you know, it's sucky.
Yeah.
It's really sucky. It's hard to even like set goals. You just kind of have to set like short-term goals just so you're not kind of getting too discouraged or down on yourself. So for anyone that's watching that feels discouraged, just set small goals, like waking up and doing yoga or meditating. Yes, definitely.
Doing the smallest things definitely do help, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, they seem small, but people are really having a tough time.
Yeah.
Just I hear a lot of people struggling just with like grounding themselves and like being present, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I will admit I've been having that problem a lot. Like I think the other day I actually went outside and I was like, maybe I should just sit in the grass for a little bit just so I can feel a little bit more calm, and it helps. But yeah, like, do you feel like have you been doing a lot more Reiki sessions since the last lockdown?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people are really kind of struggling with, and they don't really know what to do with it. And it's not really a resistance. It's almost like, I don't need therapy. I don't want therapy. And maybe there are some people that are like, that really do need therapy that I kind of like could like, you know, suggest.
Like sway them.
It would be helpful, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But for the most part, I think a lot of people are like, struggling with the fact that they've never felt things that they've never felt before, or they're addressing things that they've never addressed, and they don't know how to hold all this, like what I would call like psychic stuff, you know? It's not like stuff, but it's stuff that you're holding and it's impacting you, you
definitely.
know? And so Reiki, as well as even just like actual insight, tarot, astrology, people just calling and just wanting to like talk and have a conversation and have a space to be heard without being judged, you know?
I definitely understand that. Definitely. Wow. It's really good, but it's like, it's just really sad how easily, you know, stuff like this can really impact us and affect us like long-term. Cause I know like long-term, a lot of this stuff probably will stick with people. I know for sure me. But as you said, like, you know, just kind of have to find someone to talk about it. And I think what you brought up something that I think we've been forced. And when COVID first started, I kind of had this conversation with my dad, and I was like, you know what, I was kind of happy when COVID first started, because I'm like, you know what, I have been going and going and going and going for so long. And I was just like, I'm tired. So this is like a time for me to rest. But then I got to a point where I'm just like, okay, I'm resting too much. Like I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to look forward to. But at that time when I was really happy with resting, I was like, this is amazing. I'm just like, I haven't been able to just sit here and not do anything for so long. And I'm like, maybe I think this is what needed to happen for everyone to really realize like how much energy that we're actually giving and putting into the things that actually are not serving us that much in the end.
Exactly.
And I think it's really hard to, like, even for myself, like being home every day, you are like, I'm learning for myself personally I have to address certain things, and necessarily when I'm working and when I'm super busy all the time, I don't have the time to really look at it or even pay attention to it. Really, it might come up in my head because I'm an overthinker, but I'm not like, okay, I have to sit here and really sit with it kind of thing. But this COVID has really kind of just been like, this is an issue, you need to fix it. And if you don't fix it today, I'm going to bring it up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then the next day, and then the next day. So like for anybody that's watching, I don't want for everybody I even talk to, even just like strangers too, I hear everybody just talk about how alone they feel. And I think because we're all stuck at home together, you don't want to like burden the people that you're surrounded with. So you automatically just feel like, okay, this is too much to share with them. So naturally you just start keeping it in more and more, but just have to find an outlet for sure. Yeah, definitely. I might have to book a Reiki session with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, just something new. And also, yeah, I feel like this is just a time to try like new stuff.
And add things to your toolbox, you know?
Yeah. Like see what works for you. Cause you know, there are things that could have worked for you before that didn't work for you that, you know, could work now. So yeah. All right. To end off our interview, I'll ask you I feel like this is like the golden question. Do you think the world will really go back to normal? Like if everyone's vaccinated, like, do you think in the next, I would say the year or two, do you think it'll be back to like, when did this, before this happened, 2018?
A couple things. First of all, what is normal? What?
Basically.
Because what was happening before was also not normal.
And I actually put it in quotations here.
Right? You know?
Yeah.
I think we have been irreparably changed.
Yeah.
We cannot go back. There is no going back whatsoever. There is only like moving forward and continuing on, or transformation, you know?
Yeah.
And the people that try to go back or try to hold on to like what was are going to find it very different. Like even from an astrological perspective, you know, being an Aquarius, going to Aquarius, they are going to find it very challenging, painful, really, to hold certain beliefs, and beliefs that it's not even, it's one thing, you know, my cousin will always say, like, I don't care if you're racist, just don't impact my life. You know, if you're racist over there. But as soon as your racism starts to impact me, that's when we have a problem.
Okay.
You know, and so, you know, because we have a multitude of different personalities and whatever, and not to say that we're going to become a racist-free world, you know, but there is a level as we get into the age of Aquarius of transparency, authenticity, and taking responsibility for your energy, whatever that means, you know?
Definitely.
And so in saying, kind of like, to end off, like, you could see how this plays out when people shame each other about the vaccine. Like, you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or you haven't gotten it yet, or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting people be where they are, and they need to experience something, and whatever they need to experience, you know, they will have that, you know?
Definitely. It's fun. You bring that up. Like it's sad to say, because I feel like the human race, we kind of just find any reason to really bring the negative emotions out of each other, kind of. And it's like, it's really shameful because I don't know, but I want to like bring this up, and I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable. So I know somebody that's close to me, and he is a COVID extremist. Like, he thinks COVID is a hoax. He has literally dedicated his whole Instagram account to posting just stuff about COVID. And today he actually posted, I think it was like a Twitter series of like this guy that tweeted, and it was a dad. And he was like, oh, I don't believe in this COVID vaccine, blah, blah, blah. And then I think tweeted like a week later saying his son had convicted COVID, and then saying his son had died from it. And the person that I know like posted the picture and was kind of mocking him. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know. I'm like, I can understand why you're like, I'm an Aries, so I can understand passion entirely, but I'm just like, you have to allow people to make their own choice. And it's like, I don't understand when it became something, I think because the mainstream media is like forcing it down everyone's throat. That's why everyone else feels like they can jump on the bandwagon and be like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And if you don't, then like you're the most terrible person. So I think that's also what we all need to remember. Just allow everybody to make their own decision. Allow everyone to make their own choice, pro-choice. So anyway, sorry, continue.
No, that's exactly it. You know, as you're talking, I get this, you know, this reminder of, I don't know if it's an American thing necessarily, but this idea that, you know, we're all on teams. Like, what team
Yeah.
like hashtag team, you know, what
Yeah.
camp in, excuse me, when really ultimately we're all on the same team.
Exactly.
But, you know, so it really doesn't make sense, and we don't need to divide. We don't need to further divide ourselves, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really sad. But all right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Sheena, for joining me today. It was a pleasure talking about COVID and the vaccination. I don't know where it'll take us, guys. I don't know if you'll get the vaccination, but we will see. If you are for it, I am supporting. If you are not, I am supporting. I am neutral, very neutral. But yes, stay safe, everybody. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And I hope you have a wonderful week.
You will. Take care.
Bye, everybody.